Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Good morning. We are from group 4. We will explaining about manner of articulation. Before we explain about the materials, let me introduce the member of the group. They are Ilma Nuril Fadlila, Suhartatik, Charline Margia, Liana Nalabaya, and me, Shinta Faizatun Nur. Manner of articulation is the type of airflow obstruction. It refers to the nature of the obstruction of pulmonary airflow. In order to fully appreciate the differences among speech sounds, as well as indicating the place of articulation, it is necessary to determine the nature and extent of the obstruction of airflow involved in their articulation. There are some kinds of the manner of articulation. They are occlusive and plosive, fricative, lateral, approximant, nasal, and then affricate.
So there are many kinds of manner articulation, and I, Charline Ansori, with student ID 193200667, will explain about occlusive and plosive. So, occlusive is a consonant sound created by occluding or blocking the airflow. The span of the block is the occlusion. This occlusion is when the airstream is stopped by a sudden blockage in the oral and the restrained air is released by sudden let off the blockage. Occlusive in English include p, b, t, d, n, k, g, Occlusive divided into two kinds, stop and plosive. That is, all plosive are stop, but all stops are not always plosive. This connection can be represented as in the PowerPoint. Stop. It is because stop is when the air halted from flowing, while plosive is the final part of the sound when the following vowel bursts. Plosive made by creating a total hindrance to airflow over the mouth and nose. This happens like the image shown. First is blockage happen, and then the airflow enhance, and when the blockage is released, it causes a burst of air making a sharp noise. Because of that, plosive lacks the length aspect, different with fricatives where you can make sounds longer. Plosive sounds are b, b, t, d, k, g. Plosive sound that is more general called stop. Stop sound is when the airflow is thoroughly stopped only in oral and the airflow came out from the nose. These include sounds as and And the example in the word would be moon, night, thing.
Okay, Charline, thank you for the explanation. I'm Ilma Fadlila, and my student ID number is 193200090, and I'm going to explain the next material is about fricative. So, a fricative is the type of consonant that is formed by forcing air through a narrow gap in the oral cavity, so that a hissing sound is created. And there are 9 English fricative sounds, are f sound for fin, th sound for thin, sh sound for shin, v sound for van, j sound for genre, s sound for sin, h sound for had, th sound for that, and z sound for zoo. You can look at the picture, that is the place of English fricative sound. Among the fricatives are ones described as hissers and hussers. The realization of a hisser requires a high degree of tension in the tongue. That is, a groove is formed along the whole length of the tongue, in particular at the place of articulation where the air passes through a little round opening. English hissers are s sound, z sound, ch sound, and j sound. And the hussers are produced similarly, but with a shallower groove in the tongue, and a little opening more oval than round. The lips are often rounded or projected outwards during the realization of a husser. And English hussers are sh sound and j sound. And next is fricative consonants result from a narrowing of the speech canal that doesn't achieve the full closure characteristic of the occlusives. And the shape, also position of the lips or tongue determine the type of fricative produced. Also, during the production of a fricative, the airstream can be directed in several ways. First, in the case of through fricatives, the tongue channels the air through the center of the mouth, like in the case of the dorsal fricatives. And the second is the tongue can also channel the air down the side of the mouth, like in the case of the lateral fricatives. And lateral fricatives, during their production, the back of the tongue makes contact with the hard palate, while the front of the tongue sinks down, and channeling the air laterally around the tongue, down the side, or sometimes both sides of the mouth. Lateral fricatives, divided by 2 types, are lateral fricatives and non-fricatives lateral. And more information, non-fricatives lateral, often called liquids, whose articulation is very close to the spirans. And it is interesting to note that the location of the lateral channel through which the air flows is unimportant. That is, whether it is on the left, the right, or both sides of the mouth. The nature of the sound produced is unchanged. And English laterals are usually non-fricative. Spirans involve the same restriction of the speech canal as fricatives, but the speech organs are substantially less tense during the articulation of a spiran. Rather than friction, a resonant sound is produced at the place of articulation, and English interdentals, the and th sounds, are spirans. This is the different shape of fricative, spiran, and lateral.
Alright, next there is lateral. To produce a lateral sound, the air is obstructed by the tongue at the center of the mouth, but the sides of the tongue are left low in order that the air can escape over its sides. So here, the tongue is strongly flexed and the air is forced through a narrow oval cavity. This is producing a hushing sound. So the clearest example of a lateral sound in English is sound, sound, Both the clear and the word final dark. You can see the symbol in this slide. And the word final dark allophones. I mean the variants of the same phoneme of are lateral sounds. So when an alveolar plosive is followed by the lateral we simply lower the sides of the tongue to release the compressed air, rather than raising and lowering the blade of the tongue. So there is the example word of clear lateral. This is bottle, bottle. So you can feel the sides of the tongue lower to let out the air, bottle. And then the other example is dark, dark lateral. You can see the symbol. It occurs before consonants. It is distributed in the final position only. The example word is pull, pull. Thank you.
Well, I am Suhartatik. I will continue the explanation. So for the next manner of articulation, we have approximant. Approximant is a phonetic term of comparatively recent origin. It is a consonant that makes very little obstruction to the airflow. So here, approximants are divided into two main groups. For the first group is semivowels, or we can also call it as glides, and the second is liquids. The semivowels are ha, as in hat, ya, as in yellow, and w, as in one. They are very similar to the vowels oo, and e. However, semivowels are produced as a rapid glide. For the second group is liquids. Liquids is sounds that have identifiable constriction of the airflow, but not one that is sufficiently obstructive to produce fricative noise compression or the diversion of airflow through another part of the vocal tract as in nasals. So here, this category includes laterals, such as here we have all in lead, and non-fricative or in read. So therefore, approximant are never fricative and also never completely block the flow of air. So for the next manner of articulation, we have nasal. Nasal consonant is one that the air escapes only through the nose. For this to happen, two articulatory actions are necessary. For the first articulatory action, it is the soft palate or velum must be lowered to allow air to escape past it. So after that, secondly, a closure must be made in the oral cavity to prevent air from escaping through it. So the closure may be at any place of articulation from bilabial at the front of the oral cavity to uvular at the back. So here, for the nasal sounds in English, we have three sounds. The in mat, the in not, and the in sing or thing.
Okay, there is Affricate. In this slide, Affricate has a simple definition, so check this out. An affricate is a plosive immediately followed by a fricative in the same place of articulation. So, there is the ch sound in shape or the ch sound in charge and the j sound in jeep or the clear affricates in English. The ch sound is made up from the plosive t and the fricative sound sh. Meanwhile, the j sound is made up from the plosive d immediately followed by the fricative sound z.
That's all our explanation about manner of articulation. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.